This video is brought to you by the #1 website builder, Squarespace. When you head out to see a Tom Cruise movie, it's like going to see an old friend who's always in a great mood and wants you to have a good time. The love Tom has for his craft and the personal effort he makes to bring big action cinema to the screen is pretty much unmatched. He is clearly on a divine mission to entertain the masses, like the last true movie star he is. For Tom, no entertainment mission is impossible. His love for cinema and his respect for the audience experience is always front and center, and that's why saying that his latest and most likely his last Mission Impossible film is a little lackluster. Oh, that makes me feel like a bit of a bastard saying that. A bit of a bad friend to Tom. Tom loves his audience, which means he loves me. So how could I be so cruel to someone that loves me? Well, sometimes you have to be cruel to be kind.
I need you to trust me one last time.
So what is the issue with Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning? Well, for the final installment of a pretty spectacular franchise, Final Reckoning doesn't provide a satisfying completion for any of its characters or the story. I think most people would go into the movie anticipating and wanting a cool send-off for Ethan Hunt. After all, he's gone through a lot for us over the decades. Will he retire? Will he find peace? Will he die? Or will he prove that he and he alone is the only man for the job? Well, yes, that's the option they went with. The film even tells us several times that this is what Ethan was born for. Even his team gets mostly sidelined with little to do. Paul Luther doesn't even get to leave the room he's in. One of the charms of the Mission Impossible series is all the espionage occurring while normal people like you and me are sleeping. We're meant to be unaware that the world is under threat while a network of cool spies, each bringing their own sharpened and deadly skills, come together in the shadows. Their teamwork and camaraderie always playing out as a crucial factor in saving the day, each near escape only possible with the help of the other. Well, that doesn't happen so much in this film. And from here on, spoiler alert, the first part of this two-part film that they've changed the name so it's no longer two parts anyway. The first part, Dead Reckoning Part 1, built a nice dose of tension with a strong cast of heroes, heroines and villains. A lot of them were noticeably absent in the Final Reckoning. This film has a pared back support cast. There are a small band of goodies and one returning baddie, Gabriel, who is mostly on his own except for a bunch of faceless henchmen he has that just conveniently spawn whenever they're needed. Yes, there wasn't much for most of the cast to do in this film. It was Ethan and Ethan alone whose destiny it was to save humanity from an AI entity hell-bent on Armageddon. We were told repeatedly that only Ethan, could save mankind. Even when the underused Luther dies, it's instantly brushed aside. A character that since the beginning always grounded Ethan Hunt's character. A character that has been the moral compass and mental support for our lead dies, and we don't even get a reaction from any of the team about his passing. I don't think the team even learned that he's died. No time for any of their reactions, including Benji, in a 3-hour film, because Tom has to run again. And yes, the running is amazing, but I would have liked to have seen Benji's reaction to his closest friend dying. I mean, the guy's been with us since the very first film.
Cheers.
But it's not the only time a storyline just sort of disappears. There are a few times when this happens. The most notably is that the pursuing agent, Briggs, is really the son of John Phelps from the original film. Wow, there's a surprise. I don't think that was the original plan. This revelation, which seems quite huge and rather important, has zero to do with the story and is never spoken of again.
Good morning, Mr. Phelps.
So, after all these years, it's a real disappointment to finish on such a flat film. Tom had the opportunity to pass the baton on, maybe recruit a new star to keep the franchise going, like he did in the excellent Top Gun Maverick film. The idea could have echoed the first film where Ethan stepped in to the leader role. Ethan could have gone into retirement or possibly died a noble death, but instead he chose a story that just shouts, "Look world, I Tom Cruise, I can still do it." Don't get me wrong, I'd do the exact same thing if I looked like him at his age. Yes, instead of giving Ethan Hunt a final fitting send-off, Tom Cruise robs him of that to show off.
You can't imagine how physically punishing it was for Tom to be on the wing.
It is quite disappointing. Where a film like Unforgiven has the old gunslinger come back for one more ride, and James Bond went back to his roots in Skyfall, the Final Reckoning just barrels on with no hint that Ethan Hunt will be retiring anytime soon. In Dead Reckoning, we saw glimpses of Ethan starting to be weary of this action-filled life, which was interesting. It felt like a natural character arc for this awesome aging hero. But the Final Reckoning just did a massive about-face with this angle, and instead just rammed home that Ethan was the only perfect person who could save the world. So anyway, the story. Ethan is still on the hunt for Gabriel and the entity that he works for, the AI villain who wants to wipe out humanity.
You've no idea the power I represent. thousands of quadrillions of computations per millisecond.
I tell ya, making the Entity the villain of the last two films was the worst decision this franchise has made. It removes any of the real-world threat these movies do best. A flashing computer screen doesn't really sit up there with a good human villain, someone the audience could connect with. Anyway, to stop the Entity, Ethan has to get its source code. The whole Entity story and how it can be stopped feels like it was written by a boomer who doesn't quite understand the internet, because once the Entity exists in cyberspace, it should be near impossible to stop, like Skynet in the Terminator movies, who decided to nuke humanity as soon as it became self-aware. The Final Reckoning's version of Skynet, the Entity, is fully self-aware for years, but doesn't want to kill anyone off until it controls all the nuclear weapons on the planet. Why? Why does it need all of them, when one country's arsenal of nuclear weapons would be enough to wipe out the world? I'll tell you why. It was the only way to give us a countdown of the world powers neatly packaged into a pecking order that placed the USA at number 1. But more importantly, before the Entity destroys the world, it wants a safe place to survive. So where would an omnipresent entity want to spend eternity? On a computer locked away alone in a bunker. Yes, what would be the purpose of that existence? What is even more ridiculous is when they do finally catch the Entity, it's on a specially made glowing USB stick, which would be like trying to catch the internet by unplugging your computer. But let's have a little break from talking all things that are disappointing, and instead talk about how you could change your life. Don't let everyone else have all the fun. Get yourself and your big idea out to the world and start living the life you've always dreamed of. That's right, start connecting with the world and selling yourself or your amazing product with an incredible state-of-the-art Squarespace website. And it's easy. With Squarespace's collection of cutting-edge design tools, you can build a bespoke online presence that perfectly fits your brand or business. Start with Blueprint AI, Squarespace's AI-enhanced website builder, to get a fully custom website in just a few steps. Or you can grab one of their professionally designed website templates to get yourself started. Personalize your website with intuitive drag-and-drop editing that'll give you beautiful styling options, incredible visual design effects, and on-brand AI content. And Squarespace's custom SEO tools will make sure your website is optimized for every search engine, which means you'll get in front of more people, which means more customers. Maybe you've always wanted to teach a course. Well, Squarespace lets you set up online courses with multimedia lessons, progress tracking, and flexible pricing. Once your courses are set up, you'll be earning money 24/7. And if you like me and video is your thing, Squarespace makes it easy to showcase all your work by letting you have all your video content right on your own website. You can even monetize your content with a paid subscription members area. Squarespace also provides secure payments and client invoicing, so you can safely run your whole business straight from your website. Get started today by heading to squarespace.com/robothead and try Squarespace for free. And then when you are ready to take off, use the code robothead and you'll get 10% off your first purchase. See that link below. Get over to Squarespace today and get moving on that dream life.
This can't all be true.
Every word.
The Entity has infiltrated every company and government in the world, and somehow, when it's downloaded onto the special USB stick, it ceases to exist anywhere else in the world. The smartest artificial intelligence to ever exist, AI that could read minds and predict the future, wasn't smart enough to make a backup copy of itself. This film reminds me of explaining the internet to my grandparents. They kept trying to download the internet before they used it.
I'm going on email. I'm going on web.
They also thought that the Google Maps woman was a real person giving them directions. So yeah, that's the type of logic this movie has. In Terminator, Skynet started a war as it saw humans as the enemy. Final Reckoning never really explains why the Entity wants power or why it wants to wipe out humanity. It just does.
Why would he want to survive? What does it stand to gain from wiping out all life on Earth?
A question Noah and his family must have asked just before the flood.
Terminator showed us that Skynet couldn't be stopped because it lived everywhere.
There was no system core. It could not be shut down. Judgment Day.
Final Reckoning shows us that the Entity can be downloaded and captured like a ghost in Ghostbusters. And Ethan's character seems to have also changed a bit. In the past, we saw Ethan suffer the sadness of letting his wife go so she could have a better life. Then he suffered the death of Ilsa, his professional equal love interest and support. In Final Reckoning, it's hinted that the younger Grace may become the new love interest, which wasn't convincing because there was zero romantic chemistry between them. Grace was a great sidekick, like a sister, but Ethan Hunt was never James Bond who wanted to shag every woman that stepped within reach. So essentially, this didn't feel true true to his character. Our friend Gabriel, who had the potential of being a great villain in Dead Reckoning, was given nothing to do besides teleporting around the world with large nuclear bombs. All he does is skip ahead to the next location to have another confrontation with Ethan, and two of his encounters have the exact same setup, a massive bomb that has to be deactivated just in the nick of time. The first time this is done, Gabriel magically turns up at Luther's secret hideout, where he sneaks in alone with a bomb the size of a pool table. How he got this massive nuclear bomb down into the underground labyrinth of tunnels is never explained. The second time, he takes another massive nuclear bomb to the hidden caves in Africa. This time, he at least knew where they were heading, but did we need the exact same setup twice? 2 ticking bombs, 2 scenarios of trying to beat the clock, in a film that is nearly 3 hours long? A film that also has some of the craziest setups and stunts you will ever see? Surely in such a long film that includes escaping from a sinking submarine and hanging onto the outside of a biplane, surely we don't need 2 cliched countdown clock scenes. Also, while we're talking about Gabriel, one of the best relationships in Dead Reckoning Part 1 was between Gabriel and his assassin sidekick Paris. But in this film, we have a reformed Paris who is fueled by revenge to kill Gabriel, which is a cool idea. Does she get to do it? Because that could be fun. Nope. Again, that's Ethan's job. And even he doesn't get to do it. If ever a character needed a spectacular death, it was Gabriel. His history with Ethan, killing Ilsa in the previous film, his death should have been personal. But no, he dies by accident mid-air after we watch a 10-minute Tom Cruise stunt show. Ultimately, in what is a bad move, Gabriel's death is minimised so our focus can be brought straight back to Tom, the last action hero. On an up note, the Russians are the bad guys again, so the team can freely kill them without question, which you think would be a bit of a problem. But huge questions like Americans' relationship with the Russians and the rest of the world, questions the film sets up, are just forgotten once Ethan saves the day. And to finish the film as it limps across the line, we end on a watered-down Ocean's 11 ending, the old "we won, it's time for us all to go home," which feels incredibly flat after the build-up of this being the last film in the franchise.
I need you to trust me one last time.
The Final Reckoning is very visually impressive, and the effort that's gone into it is there up on screen. It just doesn't translate into an interesting story. It's really lacking the magic that a final film in this franchise deserves. But that doesn't mean you shouldn't see it, because Tom is still the master of making popcorn entertainment. Just make sure you're prepared for that very long 3-hour runtime.